again, and welcome to Smokes and Spirits. And today we're going to do our first movie matchup, and we're doing the number 2 seed Spaceballs against the number 7 seed Men in Tights, Robin Hood Men in Tights. But before we get started, we've lit our cigar, so we're going to talk a little bit about what we'll be smoking and drinking today. So this cigar that we're smoking today is my father, the judge. We're smoking the Gran Robusto size, and the reason for that is because this was picked by Cigar Aficionado as the number 1 cigar in 2024. Ben Garcia is the roller who grew up in Cuba and came first to Miami and then to Esteli, Nicaragua, who opened the Don Pepin brand, and then his son Jaime developed the blend for my father's cigar. This is rated 98 Shumes. Wow. So that is a super high rating. Don Pepin also, as a blender, launched the brands Tatuay, San Cristobal, and La Aroma de Cuba. So he is a super highly respected grower, master sommelier of tobacco, if you will. Ooh. It's got a brown Sumatra Oscuro wrapper, which is even darker than a Maduro, and so it's got some sweetness to it, but this is a really full-bodied cigar. It's 3 different Nicaraguan fillers, all grown on the Garcia farm, as well as a Corojo and Criollo binders. Yep. So what are you thinking so far? I'm
really enjoying the feeling and the texture of the paper, the roll. I'm getting flavors, though, Timmy, that I haven't gotten in most of the other cigars.
What do you think, Oz?
It's a good draw. I have a little bit of earthiness in there, but not overpowering like that last one, like one of the last ones we had at the cigar bar.
There's definitely some earth.
It's just a hint of it. There's not a lot of earthiness to it. The wrapper has, I don't know if I would call it sweet, but it has like more flavor on the wrapper.
Like a sweet pepper.
Yes. Has a little bit more flavor on the wrapper.
Yes. I think how you said to me, I'm getting like pepper.
We'll keep looking at this as we go through our discussion. Today we're drinking a Texas bourbon. It's from a distillery called Still Austin. It's an interesting story. It was conceived of in 2012. They finally launched it. Started building their distillery in Austin, Texas in 2014. They didn't start distilling until 2017. And their first release was 2020. Wow. And so we're only, really, for all intents and purposes, 4 years into their releases. All their grains are grown in Texas. So today, and that's their commitment, that they'll never distill a whiskey where the grains aren't Texas grown. We're drinking the same mash bill today in 2 different expressions. Shumi and Noble are drinking the more typical bourbon at an 86 proof and 70% non-GMO white corn, 25% rye. Now last week we drank a high rye, it was only 12%, so this is a really high rye.
Interesting.
And 5% malted barley. Oz and I are drinking the exact same mash bill, but we're drinking cask strength. So it comes out, same way it went in, whereas these are water is added to get to the proof point they want.
Thank you, water.
Let's give it a smell.
I smell it very sweet.
There's caramel butterscotchy smells in there.
Definitely.
Do you get the sweet smell?
I can smell the sweetness.
It's a little bit of a fruit too.
Yeah, that's a sweetness I'm getting. It's the caramel, but there's like a.
See, I don't get fruit.
Like a plummish. I'm getting like a dark fruit.
Yeah, a dark fruit. I agree.
What is a dark fruit by?
It could be a cherry.
You were thinking the same thing I was. I was like, a dark fruit?
Yeah. Yeah.
Heavier flavored, darker fruit.
Wow, even at this proof, there's some sweetness to this.
Less than you smell, though.
Yeah, definitely.
Well said.
Definitely less than you smell, but I mean, you can taste it on the back end. But
this is about 2 years in the barrel, which makes sense. They've only been since 2020, and so you get some youth on it.
Yeah. It has a little more throat burn.
Yeah. Yep. It's tasty. Mm-hmm. You got some nice legs to it.
Yep.
Really some viscosity in
Do
my
you
mouth.
taste the sweetness?
It gets all over the mouth.
Yeah. I definitely don't get a hint of caramel on my tongue.
Now the funny thing is, because of the difference in proof, if we say I get this and you say I don't, that's to be expected, and then you guys should experience it similarly.
Shun, take that and just put it on your tongue. Like when you take it, just hold it on your tongue. Get a little more of that caramel or whatever that butterscotch caramel flavor is on your tongue.
Definitely getting this.
Yours has a little bit more burn than ours.
Yes, it should.
And also you have ice in yours.
Also true.
So the ice does 2 things: a little water, which can open it up, but it also cools it down, which will mute the flavor profile. That's something a lot of people enjoy doing, and so do I.
Yeah.
When I'm not doing a tasting, there's clearly nothing wrong with drinking it. As we'll always say, the best way to drink a whiskey is exactly the way you like it.
Yep.
So it's just really to point it out that that's affecting your flavor profile in two ways. A little bit of water, and you're muting it because of the cold, which can make it really enjoyable.
If I'm like when I'm trying a bourbon for the first time or really like tasting it, I'll always do it neat. But then a lot of times I'll grab a second one, or I'll take the second half of this and put either water or a cube in it just to get a different flavor profile.
Yeah, so great way to find it, and I
Appreciate
got
that.
exactly right.
Nice.
First, put in a drop of water. Try it. Put in 2 drops of water. Doesn't take much. Then then put a small ice cube in it if you're drinking out of this, or a big cube if you're drinking it out of a more typical whiskey glass, and you're going to find the way that you like it. And that's exactly the way to drink every whiskey.
I've got the lower proof, but I don't get that heavy burn that I've gotten from other bourbons.
It's a smoother whiskey.
Yes,
it's a smoother bourbon. Yes, it definitely is.
I can let it sit on my tongue and then swallow it and I go, whoop! I turned into a dragon and I can breathe fire
That's
for
like
a
my
second.
wife says, she goes, I don't think you like anything you drink because you get that weird face every time you take a sip of it. I was like, I'm just enjoying it. She goes, it does not look like you enjoy it.
Right. Even though it's more youthful than I remember it, I really like the flavor profile. I enjoy it.
I mean, it's no dog stain.
It's no dog stain.
Well, wouldn't you think that you would get an older barrel at the tasting down there as opposed to a bottle that you're going to get up here?
Maybe, and certainly though, as they mature as a company, they're going to start releasing, more mature barrels, more mature releases.
Cost-wise, what is this though?
The regular bourbon is about $45, and then the cask strength is about $55.
So this is something I would probably have on the shelf at all times, and it's not a daily drinker unless you're a daily drinker. But it's one of those ones that you just open up and not feel bad about just drinking versus like my antique or something like that I would drink that's
celebratory.
Yeah, a little more
I make sure
reason to drink.
I make sure that I always have this. And speaking of price points, I'm actually glad you mentioned it. The #1 cigar of the year from Cigar Aficionado is in the $13 to $15 range.
Wow. This is a $13 to $15?
Yeah.
That's not bad at all.
And I like the way they pair up. For me, on the cask strength, there's a lot of heat, so I don't get a lot of the contrasting flavors, but a lot of complementary flavors that they both got.
Pulls the sweetness in this out. Like if you take a sip of that and smoke this, you get more sweetness out of the cigar than you did before.
I really like the flavor I'm getting from the paper.
Yes.
That is something new from the cigars that we've had.
And I'll tell you right now, looking at the 3 of these, they're all burning.
Great
very
burn.
consistent.
Great burn.
You've got to have that. You've got to have that construction. I say that all the time. I know people get sick of it, but that's so important. So.
Well, I've had so many cigars that I've thrown out after the first eighth of the smoke because I can't draw or I can't get it to burn consistently, and I hate throwing it out, but I'm not going to work at it either.
Yeah. Now, Timmy, so something I'm curious about. So this is the #1 ranked cigar.
Yeah.
Who ranks that? Of how this becomes the top ranked cigar?
So great question, Shum. So there's a bunch of different organizations that do rankings, and they don't all match.
Sure.
But Cigar Aficionado, which was published by Marvin Shakin, who does the Wine Enthusiast and the Whiskey Advocate, he started publishing in about 1990. Probably more than any other thing, really ushered in the cigar boom of the 90s and really turned the industry around because so many people got interested in it and so many celebrities on the cover smoking cigars. It became the cool thing to do. And so it's really their editorial board. And their criteria is going to be similar to the criteria that we're going to discuss with our movies.
I like that.
Each one of us has our own criteria.
I like that. I like that.
But I'm sure that for each of them, it's construction, it's flavor, it's strength of the cigar. And, I don't know for sure, but I wonder if I've got 2 cigars that I feel are pretty close together, and one's $13 and one is $50, and I can't break the tie, for me, $13. If $50 is better, I'll say it's better. It wasn't a tie. No other cigar was ranked at 98. I mean, that is really...
That seems impressively high.
All right, well, let's get into...
We don't share with Noble.
Let's get into the movies.
We've been looking forward to this.
So this week, each one of us and our brothers who couldn't make it today have watched and voted for either the #2 seed, Spaceballs, or the #7 seed, Robin Hood Men in Tights. But before we reveal our votes, let's just talk about kind of our general feeling of each movie and the 2 together.
I'd love to hear Shumi first because he had not seen either one, so they were first draws for him.
So what I liked about most, too, is for both films, I watched them with several of you guys as well. So I didn't watch them alone. I think I said it at the last pod, huge Star Wars fan. So Spaceballs was hilarious. For a first time ever seeing that, the spoof of Star Wars, how they just carried that story. I mean, just the opening scene of the ship never ending was like, this is awesome. This is awesome. So I'm probably going to have a little bit bias towards that. But watching Robin Hood, I've never seen that either. That movie, I think I laughed harder at several of the parts. Not necessarily the whole storyline or the movie, but some of the lines, the blind guy in there, what's his Blinken?
Yep.
Him fencing the pole was one of the funniest things I've ever seen. I was dying laughing. I'm glad that I was finally able to watch Spaceballs.
Now, the question is, did you laugh at Men in Tights more because you thought it was funny or because I was losing my shit watching it?
A little bit of that, and I did have Oz in my ear with some of the references the movie were making. Hey, this is what they're spoofing there, because I didn't know what the references were.
And I had to mention, like, hey, watch the mole.
Yes.
Because the mole moves every single scene, and things like the hey Abbott.
Like I said, I think I laughed a little bit harder at Men in Tights, but only at certain parts of it. The story and just the spoof of Star Wars in general. I mean,
I'm on like similar path. Is like you have to decide: are you choosing the better movie, the one you think is a better movie, and you laugh still as a comedy, or one that you laugh and can quote more? I mean, it's kind of hard. It's like it all depends on what you decide to determine is funnier or a better comedy. I think Spaceballs is a better movie in general, just a better overall movie. And I think I quote Spaceballs more than I quote Men in Tights, but I laughed more consistently through Men in Tights.
What about you?
So I honestly forgot that Mel Brooks directed both of them. Watching the opening scene where they're in Men in Tights, where they're just constantly launching air, and the villagers are like, every time they burned our village down, and that yelling at Mel Brooks in the opening scene. I laughed harder at Men in Tights. Again, I think we quote Spaceballs more, but watching Men in Tights, I laugh more often. Is it that I've seen Spaceballs so much that literally I could quote the movie before everything is said, and then the pure just physical comedy of Men in Tights?
Sure.
You changed your name to Latrine? Yeah. It used to be Shithouse. Like, come on.
Or how hard is it that, I mean, the actor of the Sheriff of Rottingham,
having to
butcher everything and re-say it and like repeat it in different ways. That's got to be the hardest thing to ever do because it's so unnatural.
Sure.
He does it so well. And I was just like, and that makes me laugh every time.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm so torn between the two.
as to your point, this is where I'm in agreement with you. I think the movie, though, of Spaceballs, the whole length film, is a better movie in storyline.
Is that because you like Star Wars?
I'm going to be biased, of course, absolutely.
Yeah,
And see, I'm a
Robin Hood.
I'm a Robin Hood man. Like I
like Robin.
loved, like that was my genre growing up. Kevin Costner.
Well, there's every Robin Hood they make, I'll watch.
Yeah.
I mean, even no matter how bad it is, I will watch those Robin Hoods.
But if you didn't watch the Kevin Costner Robin Hood, one of the best lines in the movie goes right over your head. Because I can speak with an English accent.
Yes.
Because Kevin Costner plays Robin Hood with an Iowa accent.
Yes.
Like he's in Field of
Field
Dreams.
of Dreams. He's still, he's just wanting to play ball with his dad.
And by the way, you have a new nickname.
I do.
Yes. You are Little John.
Little
from that
John.
movie. Every time we saw it, we're like, God, that's noble.
We agree on that.
By the way, Little John in that movie, he does such a good job. And every time I watch it, though, I'm reminded of his job also in American Wedding.
Yes.
When Stifler goes to the gay bar to get the dress and they get the dance off.
Again,
It was in my head as well. But the scene on the bridge, like when they're fighting with the staffs and it just keeps getting smaller and then
they throw it.
Yeah. And
and then him drowning in the river.
Or Dave Chappelle being like, Robin, we don't have to do this. It's not that big. Like you can just. I'm on the East Coast. I'm on the West Coast.
You mean Achu?
Achu.
So that's the thing too. Robin Hood spoofed. I mean, it was mainly a spoof by Robin, but it spoofed a lot of movies.
Yeah, like when he puts the Malcolm X glasses on.
Yeah.
Hey Abbott, like you said at the end.
I was also, they're older films, right? I think they're both rated PG.
Yes.
In today's movie world,
Those are kids' movies today.
yeah, well, and they would not be rated PG.
No.
Did you notice that there's the same character in there too? The priest that was marrying them, and then the dad.
He's the dad.
The dad of the princess in Spaceballs.
I forgot all about
Two
that.
actors in both movies. One is obviously Mel Brooks, right? Yep. Who's Yogurt, and also the president. And then he's
The rabbi.
The
Rabbi
rabbi.
Tuckman.
Like,
Just half off.
everybody, I'll take two.
And then Dick Van Patten. Now here's a funny story. So I'm downloading images so I can, on the podcast when we talk about a certain scene or a certain actor, right? Show it as a graphic. And I look for Spaceballs, Dick Van Patten, and the inappropriate response I got from Google on it was shocking. Well, I wanted you guys who enjoyed both movies to react first before I became a Dick Van Patten. After watching these two movies, I'm more angry than ever that Young Frankenstein didn't make our top 32.
See, I can understand that because I don't think they aged well, but I don't think Young Frankenstein aged well either.
Well, we'll have to watch that outside of
Yes.
that bracket to determine that. But as far as Mel Brooks movies goes, I think one of his better ones didn't make it. I enjoyed both movies. And maybe I'll find this with a lot of these that I haven't watched in a long time. But if I were re-ranking today on my own, neither one of these two would have made it. Wow. Spaceballs, I remember when it was released, that close in conjunction with Star Wars was actually really funny because everything's really fresh in your mind. And everybody's seen Star Wars. Now, Robin Hood Men in Tights is a spoof on a movie that not everybody has seen, but it stands on its own really well anyways. And one of my favorite scenes was Don Giovanni.
Yes.
And
Yes.
Dom DeLuise does a great job.
Yep.
But you know what? Even if you've not seen Godfather, everybody knows who Dom DeLuise is. But if you've not seen Godfather, you don't know who Luca Brasi is, you missed the whole joke of other Archer because he's hilarious. I hope your child is a male child.
I love when he makes fun of this other guy too. Go like this. Get to it.
If I'm going to have to,
Let's get into it. Do the vote.
if I have to pick one, I'm picking Men in Tights.
All right, that's one for Men in Tights.
I'm going to be biased.
Which is fine. This is a personal.
It's not,
Comedy is subjective.
I'm going to move Spaceballs on. My vote's for Spaceballs.
See, and this is hard because I agree with Spaceballs only on a movie perspective,
100%.
but that's not what I'm going to go after because I quote and I laughed harder and everything. And I'm going to go with Men in Tights because I actually think I laughed more.
I even said I think I laughed harder, but just add specific scenes of Robin Hood. But the movie of Spaceballs is better.
So we've got three guys that aren't here today, and they each sent their votes. Mr. Weiss says Men in Tights.
Yep.
Mr. Grunkemeyer Silk says Spaceballs. Mr. Chapman says
Spaceballs.
yes. But at this point, I'm going to insert his very elegant soliloquy of why he voted for it.
Spaceballs takes a satirical swing at the iconic Star Wars franchise, blending slapstick humor with sharp-witted parodies. What stands out here is Brooks' ability to fuse visual gags with a clever script that lampoons the absurdities of space epics. The supporting characters are both endearing and ridiculous, from the lovable Lone Star to the over-the-top Dark Helmet, played with deliciously campy precision by Rick Moranis. What Spaceballs excels at is its rapid-fire pace of jokes, delivering sight gags, one-liners, and absurd concepts without letting up. And let's not forget John Candy's baritone voice work as the lovable Mog, Pizza the Hut, and of course the beloved merchandising scene, which is as meta as it is funny. On the other hand, Robin Hood, Men in Tights is a more focused parody, riffing on the well-worn Robin Hood legend. The humor here is a bit more absurd and light-hearted, but it doesn't quite have the same rapid pacing as Spaceballs. It's still full of Brooks's signature cheeky humor, with the likes of Carrie Elwes as Robin Hood delivering one of his most lovable performances, filled with cheeky one-liners and physical comedy. The film leans more on traditional medieval parody. Think lowbrow gags, sight humor, and a healthy dose of absurdity. Who can forget the musical number, We're Men? So, which is the better comedy? While Robin Hood, Men in Tights offers a solid, if at times predictable, comedic adventure, Spaceballs holds up stronger as an overall comedic package. Its jokes transcend the specific Star Wars fandom and reach a wider audience, thanks to its playful combination of slapstick, clever satire, and impeccable timing. Additionally, Its visual style and fast-paced narrative lend themselves to a more all-encompassing experience, one that doesn't require you to have seen a certain movie or be familiar with a specific genre to appreciate the comedy. In the battle of Mel Brooks comedies, Spaceballs wins for its sheer wit, broad appeal, and iconic moments that have since become embedded in pop culture. But hey, Robin Hood, Men in Tights definitely deserves a place on the comedy throne as well. After all, who doesn't love a good old-fashioned fart joke in tights?
So right now we have, if my math is correct, a tie.
A tie.
And you're going to be the tiebreaker.
Men in Tights.
Again, because I looked at it and like now I was like, all right, if both of these are on, and these are my only two channels because that's how TV used to work, which one of these am I going to stay on? And I would stay on Men in Tights.
So our very first matchup
Is
an
a
upset.
we have
massive
a 7
upset.
seed,
Massive
Massive upset.
a 2 seed. They'll go against the winner of Vacation and The Hangover.
Ooh, that's going to be a tough one.
Next week,
Okay.
we're going to just do the 2 7s, and then we'll go back around, and,
Okay.
and we'll do the 3 6s, the 4 5s, and then the 1 8s.
I almost want to say Up in Smoke and Old School.
Let's do it.
Now, what I probably won't be here Saturday next week to vote on those. I'm having a kid Wednesday, so.
Yep, congrats.
Before we close out today, let's get a second opinion now as we
Yeah.
as
We're
we
partially
get
through the cigar.
get to this. What are you thinking?
So my burn has still been fantastic. Wrapper's fully intact.
It actually is really good. It is really good.
It's one of the better tasting cigars.
I'm getting less earthy the further I get into
Getting
it.
more nutty.
Yeah, nutty or that sweetness is kicking in.
The more you guys keep it in your mouth, the more nutty flavor you get, huh?
Yeah, and it's a great smoke. It's really.
It is.
I see why it's number 1.
I will say, I mean, whole different flavor profile, but the smoke in this, I enjoy this almost as much as I enjoy my League of Nines.
That's a bold statement.
It is, because that's your favorite
It's
cigar.
my favorite cigar.
And it's a totally different experience. I don't want to say experience. Totally different flavor, totally different smoke. But the experience is
Yes.
a similar level. And I still like the bourbon.
I've tried to get away from mixing it with anything because I want to just get the bourbon flavors for this. I can drink this. Like I could sit here with us without ice, without anything, and just like
Which doesn't happen.
I'm not making the faces. I'm
Yep.
not making
Yep.
the oh my gosh, like let me fight through this. Like this has a taste and not just fire water.
I will say, the more I get into this and the more I like hold it in my mouth, I'm getting so much more of the sweeter flavors in it.
Yeah. Listen, I very rarely drink a bourbon without a cigar these days, so I get to match it with a cigar and get that flavor. All right, so we like the cigar.
Yeah.
We like the bourbon. Number 7, Robin Hood Men in Tights is upset.
Major upset.
Major upset.
Number 2, Spaceballs. The next time we're together, we'll be, so that's the West region, if that matters.
Yes,
The
sir.
Northeast region next week, number 2, Old School. Number 7, Up in Smoke.
So what I'm excited about for this matchup is I don't know what either of these movies.
Yeah, at least the other 2, you had a clue what they were
Yes.
You've never seen Old School?
I couldn't even tell you what it's about. Who's
Well, so that's it for today. Next time we'll be doing
Cheers.
Up in Smoke, Old School. So until next time, keep your smoke lit, keep your spirits high. Cheers.
Cheers.